Okay guys, so now we have a basic idea of what's going on. What should we test first? There's a few different ways we can go about this. Should we see if we're missing something? So let's do that first. Before we go any further, I just want to briefly cover this real quick because it is very important to check all your power sources. In the beginning, we already determined that our control side fuse is good because all our other three windows are working. So we know this 7.5 amp fuse, fuse 24, is good because our relay is firing and our other three windows are operating. We also determined that this 40 amp fuse 46 is good because all three other windows are working as well. But if you follow this over, you notice that every window has its own fuse. So one thing we should check that we can't verify from the other operations is fuse 10. It's a 20 amp fuse, and this is located on the driver's side by the kick panel. Now I verified this. This is the first thing I checked when the car came in. I just failed to cover it during my demonstration. However, I do know that fuse 10, 20 amp fuse, is good. Well, what's going to make this complicated is that there's no indications of what pins are what. So what I'm going to do is go get a notepad. I'm going to plug this back in. And I'm going to go off the colors and write down what pin numbers are what. So if we look at the conductors on the switch, we're going to go from left to right. And the first one is blue with the yellow tracer. Second one is blue with the red tracer. Third one is blue with the white tracer. Fourth one is blue with an orange tracer. And then the fifth one is green with a black tracer. So what I did, I just took and drew a quick illustration of how it's laid out. B, blue with yellow, blue with red, blue with white, blue with orange, green with black. Exactly what pins are what. Then if we look at the schematic, I correlated the numbers 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So when we do our testing, we know what to go off of. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is determine what conductor does what. So when we look at the schematic, the first thing we see, and the easiest thing to check, is for a hot, to see if we have power coming over to this conductor. So we got to determine what conductor is what. So we go back to our drawing, and we know that our hot wire coming from the other switch is this green with black tracer, number 1. So we'll find the green with black tracer and see if we have power. So to determine if we have power on that green conductor, I'm going to use my handy dandy test light that I made years ago, but it works great. It uses a 194 single filament light bulb, puts a little bit of a load on the circuit, and it tells us somewhat if the integrity is good. So to find power, we're going to hook the alligator clip up to ground. I found a good ground to be right about where the door hinge is, somewhere in that vicinity on a clean piece of metal. And of course, if we don't find power right away, definitely check your ground, make sure you have a good ground. Okay, so right here is our green with black tracer. We flip it over, and as of right now I don't have power. But if we look at the schematic, there's a relay involved. The key has to be on to energize that relay. So let's turn the key on. Okay, I got the key on. Green with black tracer. Bam. So we do have power. So now we know we have power coming over to terminal number 1 on the switch. What about ground?
Let's pause there for a minute. So we just determined that number 1 has 12 volts positive. So if everything's working correctly, now remember in this illustration, in this demonstration, I'm trying to get the window to go down. That's what I'm concerned about at this point. So if I have 12 volts going down, I move my rocker switch to the down position. It comes through the contact, goes to terminal 3. Now we're applying 12 volts through the blue and white conductor to the motor. Okay, what's the motor need to run now? We need a ground. So we're going to come over to terminal 5, which is the blue with yellow conductor, and we're going to determine if we have a ground. If we have a ground here, it's going to go through the contacts in the down position and put ground through the blue and red conductor, which will start putting your window down. So let's see if we have a ground on terminal 5.
So how are we going to find a ground? Well, we know we have power to the green and black. So we could hook up my alligator clip side of my test light to green and black, and then check ground on number 5. Right? Should work, because we're going to be completing that loop. That should illuminate my test light if I have a good ground. Let's try it. To make this easier for checking, I have a little test lead I made up that fits these terminals perfect. I also have some test leads in the kit itself, but this works good. That should be hooked up to power, so if I probe any ground, this should illuminate. Okay, so if I come over here for a moment to test to make sure I have a good hot, if I touch any ground, this should light up, correct? I know that door hinge was a good ground before because I illuminated my test light. So let's check it. Okay, so I know if I have a good ground on terminal number 1, the blue with yellow tracer, everything should work fine, correct? Well, let's try it. Here's terminal number 1, blue with yellow. Aha, look at that, guys. That switch is never so we're missing our ground. So regardless how good the contacts are in that switch, that motor's never going to work, because it's looking to take this ground and complete the circuit between 5 and 4, which goes down to the ground side of the motor. So we know our hot side of the circuit is good. We're getting power when we put the switch in the down position from 1 to number 3, which is blue with white. It's going down to the hot side. It's putting power down to the motor. But when we go from 5 to 4, even though the contacts are good, I'm getting no ground. So if number 5 doesn't have a ground to apply to 4, the blue with red, how's it going to ever put ground to that motor? We got to see why we're missing this ground on number 5 in order for this motor to work. Okay guys, I'm over here at the driver's side master switch. I just took and popped this cover off real quick. This takes a couple more of them push clips around the lower perimeter towards the front. Once you pop them, pull this out. Now we gain access to the switch. Right here's the connection. Let's take a look at the wiring schematic. Make sure the color stayed the same. I believe it's this blue with yellow tracer. So let's take a look and double check.
Let's take a minute and just trace this circuit real quick. We determined that our blue with yellow tracer is our supply ground in the down position. Correct? I noticed on the last video a lot of people had trouble with this one portion. They didn't understand what I was trying to say with the down, the up, and whatnot. But just take a quick look real quick one more time. See how this says down and this says down? Well, whatever contacts that's written next to is the contacts that are going to be closed when it's in a down position. So in other words, it says down. See this contact? That's going to be closed to the main lead going to the motor. So remember, these are the 2 leads going to the motor. So regardless of anything, these switching contacts are attached to these leads. Okay, so keep that in mind. So it's either going to flip to this side or it's going to flip to this side. Same thing over here. So this middle contact, when it's in the down position, is facing down. When it's in the up position, it's facing up. Same thing with this side. When it's in the down position, it's facing down. When it's in the up position, it's facing up. Why? What about the off? One person mentioned how these are all 3 listed together. Well, the off is in this normal state that you're looking at it at this time. Like this is without making any mechanical movement. These contacts are closed on down, so the ground's completed. Because we determined this is the ground wire coming from each side, because they're normally closed in this position on each switch. So in a normal position, without making any movement, you have 2 grounds going to that motor. The only time something's going to change is if you make a mechanical movement, and say you're going down, this contact remains closed, so you're pushing the switch down, trying to put the window down. This contact remains down, closed, and this contact will switch over to the down position. So hopefully that clarifies that. Okay, so we're missing our ground. Okay, so this is where we determine our ground is missing, coming from number 5. We have no ground on number 5 to complete to number 4. So we're going to take and we're going to trace this circuit. Just bear with me a minute, guys. You see I have it highlighted in blue, and it comes over here, and it's going to keep on going. So I got to go to the next schematic,
and find the blue with yellow number 4. So number 4, blue with yellow. And as you can see, I'm not seeing anything like any break in that circuit. It's just taking me directly over to the power master switch. And we determined that the blue with yellow was our supply ground. The blue with red was the one that went down to our motor. Okay? So let's see if we can find the blue with yellow on the main switch over here and see if we have ground. That'll determine if indeed we have a problem over here at the switch or somewhere in the conductor on its way over. So let's see what we got. Before I go disturbing anything, I just want to show you the blue with yellow just happens to be this lower one on the end. So let's see if we have ground there. What I did, I have a long extension for my test light that I run out to the positive side of the battery when I have trouble locating a easy to access power wire. So therefore, if I just probe ground with my test light hooked up, as you can see, I just confirmed good. So we should be fine, and we should have ground present on this conductor. Ah, we do. Now that just surprised me. Either that ground's dropping under a load or just disturbing something here created a good ground. I'm not 100% certain yet. However, let's test this switch. Remember, looking at the schematic, this is going to kill this main switch here that says on, and if we flip it down, it will be off. Kills all the passenger windows, so all the rear windows in addition to the right front. That should kill that ground. The driver's window has its separate ground. Okay, so that's good. What the heck's going on? Let's plug the switch back into the passenger door and see if this thing works. Maybe for some reason I disturbed something and now it's good.
Okay, so let's take a closer look now. We just determined this contact is good. This switch is closed because I have a ground here on this blue with yellow conductor. So why am I losing it going over to the other side? I'm showing nothing else in the circuit. Let's trace it one more time. I got ground here. No reason to check any other conductors at this point. Follow it over. It goes blue with yellow, number 4. We'll go to the next schematic. Blue with yellow, number 4. And it goes right over to the front passenger window switch. So how come I have it on one side of the vehicle and not on the other? We got to do some probing.
Okay, now that's odd, because we tested this blue with yellow tracer on the other side and we didn't have a good ground. So if I go over to the other side right now and I'm showing a good ground, then evidently I must have disturbed something, because not even with the load on it on the other side, before I was thinking to myself, just now I was thinking to myself, well, maybe it's dropping out under a load, but we weren't loaded when I tested and didn't have a ground. So evidently something is either broken in this conductor. Let me take a look on the other side and see if I have the ground. Find my test light one more time. Okay, we're good there. Blue with yellow. Still don't have a ground. Oh, that's not good. Okay, I'm back over on the driver's side. Let me verify this test light one more time. Oh, now look. One more time. Okay, we're good. And it's definitely blue with yellow. I'm not colorblind. I got ground here. Now I'm showing nothing in that schematic between this conductor and the other switch. Okay, so let me double verify. It's definitely blue with yellow. What the hell's going on?
I'm going to have to pop this switch out of here, guys. See what we got. That's why I don't like disturbing anything with the door panel first, because there might be something going on, maybe right here where it goes through the door if they had the door panel off, or maybe from the harness runs through here. Maybe we have something going on. I don't know, it could be a lot of things. So let's start here at the switch. I'm going to take and pop this out. Correct way to pop this out, but it seems to work. Let's see if I see anything obvious. Another blue with yellow. That's the only blue with yellow tracer. Let's do what they call a wiggle test, guys. I'm going to hook the test light up to the other side. I'm going to sit over here and wiggle the wires. See if I can get that test light to light. And that's a simple test, what they call a wiggle test, to find a broken conductor. And that's what we're going to perform next. Let's do a little wiggling. Okay guys, I'm back over here on the passenger door. Just going to verify my test light one more time. I'm just showing you guys real time how I do it. Remember, we're going to find the same blue with yellow. Still nada. I'm going to leave that probed in just like so. I'm going to go over to the other side and we're going to perform a wiggle test. I mean, this conductor could be broken over here at this door. It could be broken anywhere from point A to point B. I don't see any splices in the schematic. There may be. However, we're going to have to start somewhere. So I'm going to start on a driver's door since I have power at that one point. And we're just going to start wiggling that conductor and see if we get this light to light. Okay, just to go over this one more time. Before I start the wiggle test, I verified I had a good power source on that alligator clip when I touched this to ground to a known good. And I have it probing the blue with yellow tracer. So now we're going to start performing the wiggle test. Once I get a good ground on that blue wire, it should act just like a known good ground and illuminate this light bulb, correct? So let's do it and see what happens. Okay, as you can see, I got the door panel off, got the wire loom exposed. I got my test light back on this side. I know just by wiggling this, doing a wiggle test, I'm not getting anything on the opposing switch. So I just want to verify still have a good ground. Now, I had to hook all this back up to trace this blue with yellow tracer, because remember, this kills the other three windows, and this is that ground wire. So without this hooked up and everything going through the switch as it needs to be, I would have no ground on this blue with yellow tracer. I can demonstrate that real quick. If I unplug this main ground for this switch, I lose this ground. If I plug it back in, you will see my ground comes back. So everything has to be hooked back up. Same thing if I move this switch. If I go to the up position for the passenger switch, see how it takes that ground away? That's because I'm switching poles. So we know everything's working correctly inside the switch. I'm just losing that ground from point A to point B. So what I'm going to do now, I probably shouldn't be showing this, however, time is being strapped once again. One of the main reasons I made this test light is because it has a needle point. I mean, it's pretty much a needle. So I could actually probe through
without making a gaping hole in a wire. I could actually break the insulation and check that ground. I wouldn't recommend doing this on a hot wire, but it's on a ground wire. It could be exposed, to be honest with you. So it's not going to kill me or kill anything on this vehicle by me simply probing through that insulation with the needle point to see where I'm losing my ground at. So with that being said, I'm going to take and slowly try to trace this yellow, and someone's blowing my phone up, this yellow or blue with yellow tracer. And I'm going to take and see if I can find it. It's right there. I'm just going to break this insulation at this point. I still got a good ground here. So if I go 1 foot at a time and I'm good inside the vehicle, I just want to check up to that point through all these bends, because sometimes you never know. I found them in worse spots. And we're going to dig a little deeper. Right here looks kind of odd to me. I could spread. I do see some tape in there. Not sure if I'm liking that. Let me see what's going on. What the heck is this? I don't think it has anything to do with our problem. Someone definitely was there before. I don't know what for. Let me check here. Here's my blue with yellow tracer. Okay, we're still good. Oh lordy, it's getting late. Guess next I'm going to pop the kick panel and see if I can find where this goes through to the inner fender up here. It's got a door pillar. Okay, let me locate that and I'll be right back at you. Okay, I'm still over here at the left front door. I took and I followed the wire loom all the way down, and of course, you know, it has to go through the hinging point, so they leave an extra little bit of wire so it flexes. And what I found, where it goes through this inner door, where the back side of the door support is, I took and I popped that grommet out, because from underneath the dash it's very hard to, everything's loomed up nice and neat, so I didn't want to disturb it too much. So I figured I'd pop this loom off, or pop this grommet off, and expose the wires and see what I could find. I know it's hard to see. But I took and I bent it back and I pulled out the blue with yellow tracer. It's actually that top one that's separated. I don't know if I get the light in there enough for you to see it. However, you can take my word for it. See the yellow tracer on it. It's the blue with yellow. And I don't have any ground at that point. So that's telling me we lost it somewhere before where it goes into the car. So my guess is somewhere in this section here. What I see is that somebody ran a separate speaker wire, kind of half you know what. However, they have a zip tie wrapped around the wire harness. I'm wondering if that zip tie might have been chafing, if they have it too tight. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut that zip tie off, and I'm going to pop the grommet off on the door side and see what we got. So I'm going to do that now. Well guys, I think I just found the problem. I took and I pulled this weather strip off a little bit so you can see in there better. However, I didn't even realize this, guys, but on these Hondas, it's actually a plug that plugs into the door. I didn't expect that. But when I went to unplug it, everything's falling apart. Take a look. All the wires are coming off. They're all corroded. Looks like it's got some weather. May have gotten in there. And what's that one wire that's not even hooked up? Yep. Sure, it looks like the blue with yellow tracer. So I'm going to take it on, plug that, and see what we got.